Without that further ado, thank you very much, Mmuso Church, for having me. And thank you also for organizing this, because I think most of the time, you know, we tend to, as Christian, shy away from topics such as this, mental health. You know, you wonder, is this demon? Is it mental health? And so on. So we're going to be helping each other tonight. And I'm not sure if those questions and so on are posted already, and I will address that later on as we go on. So, you know, I was looking at it, I was like, okay, in Sotorere, I was thinking, get the or should I keep quiet? I was like, okay, it's fine. Let me come and teach being a rose among the thorns, you know, gender imbalance, mental health. But anyway, big ups to you, everybody, Tato, to Pastor Koketo. I really am grateful to be on this platform today, to be sharing with you. It is an honor and a privilege for me to be here with you tonight.
I want to just interject and tell you, my wife and the ladies, actually, they had to say to me, because I had a panel of only men, and they had to say to me, no, we don't work like that. You know, so I got a lashing from them already. And in the future, there will be a better balance. You know, it's the bias that you have in our minds, you know. Yeah, so yeah.
Sure, comrade. And with that camaraderie of the bias in the mind, you know, I was also looking at where mental health was positioned in terms of the webinar. But as I said, it's time for teaching. I'm going to go into it. All right. So I didn't want to do that. But I'm thinking, you know, let the church say amen, and you know, about this. So amen. I'm going to be about to share a slideshow that you are all seeing, I think, on your screens. And also maybe mainly because I'm a teacher, and, you know, this is how we roll when we want to understand things, or when we want to explain things a little bit better to people. So we look at the topic itself to say, remaining sane in the midst of chaos. And what is sanity? Is sanity the absence of mental illness? What basically is that? Or what is crisis? Is the crisis the presence of chaos, or can we even have crisis without chaos? And I'm going to be dissecting and unpacking that a little bit later on. So when we look in general in terms of mental health means having a healthy state of mind, healthy thoughts, and healthy emotions. And also mental health is a feeling of peace with the world and with oneself. And also we see mental health as a state of awareness about your mental state, to a level where you are capable of not only knowing that you need help when you need it, but also capable of reaching out for it. If the state is maintained, we believe that the person is mentally healthy. So this means mental health is a balance of mind, body, and soul and spirit. And psychology actually comes from a word psyche, which means soul. So there is no way the church can divide or take out psychology out of our existence, because we're dealing with souls, we're dealing with the spirit, and that is the presence of that. And I want you to note very well the third bullet, where we're saying that it's the ability to be capable of not only knowing that you need help, but also to be able to reach for it. Which then brings me to the question. And, you know, I was thinking about this. I'm not a person of absolutes, and I don't make, you know, things about absolutes. But I think today I am coming up with absolutes to say that we are all insane. Yes, I said it. And also emotions are God-given. These are the absolutes that I'm standing by and that I'm willing to defend today in today's presentation. And I will come to the we are all insane part. But emotions are God-given. I think most of the time we are uncomfortable with negative emotions. We are only comfortable with positive emotions. So the joy, you know, the love, the peace, the all of that. And we are often uncomfortable of the anxiety, the anger, the anguish, the envy, jealousy, anxiety, and so on. So why am I saying emotions are God-given? If emotions were not God-given, God was not going to create us with those emotions if they were not God-given. So to show that they are God-given, God has created us with those emotions. We look at James, is it chapter 4, verse 10? Which says, sorry, that one is humble yourself, né? The one where we must not go to bed in our anger. So the Bible recognizes the fact that we are to be angry, that anger is there, it's an innate nature of a human being. So meaning that we need to embrace the anger, we need to be angry and stay angry. If you are angry, say I am angry, and be able to embrace that, because oftentimes we dismiss emotions, we cover them, we bury them, but then they somehow they emerge somewhere unexpected, and then it becomes an explosion of emotions because they were not dealt with at the time when I was angry. I did not recognize that I was angry. I used to think because I'm Shangan, and by the way, Pastor, big up for you for having 3 out of 1 in terms of the Shangan. So yeah, we rock the world. Anyway, so I thought because I'm Shangan, I don't get angry, until this one situation that showed me that I actually do get angry. Why did I think I don't get angry? It's because I did not act angry. But then I realized that my body reacted angry. So my heart, you know, it fumes. I to, you know, heart palpitation, like blood boiling. And I was thinking, yo, that day I scared myself. I was like, hey, I'm capable of getting angry. So please don't be in my way when I'm angry. That is just a disclaimer out there. Anyway, so it's not about the emotion, the feeling. It's about what we do with the emotion that makes the difference. So we must really not judge ourselves for being jealous, for being anxious, for being angry, for being frustrated. It is what it becomes in that moment, but then what we do with it, which I'm going to also talk about a little bit later. So what I am claiming, I am saying that we all, I'm sorry for that typo, I'm very sorry for that. We all have mental health issues. It's an absolute that I am putting out there. So we are all not insane. We are all not sane. What is the difference between all of us is that it comes in levels. So my level of sanity and your level of sanity and the level of sanity of somebody that is in hospital, that I've hospitalized right now, it's not the same as, you know, the other person. You know, I was just thinking to say, I'm going to make everybody take a poll, and where you can raise your hand, you don't need to do it in the post, you can raise it in your heart, you know, we don't need to see you. But I want to say, who has had a perfect life? I want you to raise your hand. So perfect life, let's start from childhood. Who has had a perfect childhood? Who is having a perfect adulthood? A kind of adulthood that you have always dreamed of, that you have always envisaged, that you have always strived for, and right now you are living your best life, you are having your perfect adulthood. Who has had no crisis in the past 1 year, 2 years, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? You know, so if we were to check all those boxes, we will really see that we are all suffering from mental health illnesses. It's just that it's at different levels. Now, I want to make an account for biblical accounts of mental illnesses. And I know that it becomes uncomfortable to say, the Bible speaks about mental illness. The Bible does speak about mental illness. It's got a lot to say about mental illnesses. I'm not gonna quote all these scriptures, but if you can, just take a screenshot and go for yourself to look for yourself what the Bible accounts on each and every one of these verses. But I want to zone in and zoom in into the biblical account of mental illnesses of Jesus. And somebody might be saying right now, you know, Nkateko, you are being blasphemous, you know, to say, hey, was Jesus mentally ill? Yes, Jesus was mentally ill. Was Elijah mentally ill? He was mentally ill. So in 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 4 to 14, we see it was after Elijah prayed and there was rain, after there was a lot of, a period of time where there was no rain. And, so it was after a very victorious time when this happened. But we see in the biblical account that Elijah sat under a brook tree and asked God to die. And if you don't believe me, go to your Bible and check it out. Elijah was suicidal. And we must also take note, Elijah was suicidal not in the absence of victory, but in the presence of victory. So you can still be having a good time, having a nice time, being comfortable, being in a good place where things seems to be going your way, but yet still be depressed, yet still want God to be taking your life. We look at Matthew 26, verse 37 to 39. It was when the disciples were with Jesus in Gethsemane, and Jesus was just saying, I mean, you leave me here alone. I'm praying by myself. Do you not see the heaviness of this cup? And the Bible tells us that his sweat even became blood. That's how anxious he was about what was going to happen. And obviously, he went in to obey God, but then his anxiety, I mean, that is one of the symptoms of anxiety, if you did not know. That is one of the symptoms of depression, is just not wanting to eat. That I'm talking about Elijah now, did not want to eat until God sent the ravens to go and to have him nourished and so on. So he was even tired, he was fatigued in his body. That is one of the symptoms of depression and suicidality. One of the symptoms of anxiety is it's sweat, it's shaking, it's restlessness. For Jesus to be checking on them now and then, he wasn't just making sure that they are staying awake and praying. So those are the biblical accounts that we see. Then we look at types of mental health problems, and I divide this mental health problems into two. And this is not to say that after this presentation, you need to go and judge yourself. I'm not judging you, so you don't need to judge yourself. God is also not judging you, but it's just to bring some awareness to you. I say there's a difference between self-induced and external factors, kind of mental illnesses. So external factors, coronavirus, we don't have control over coronavirus. We don't have control over when will the pandemic end, how the spread, how rapid is the spread going to go on. We don't have control over that. Self-induced, we have control over not being credit thieves. And what do I mean by that is that somebody is competing with another person, thinking, I want the same as what Nkateko has bought Tato. I am going to, I'm going to buy my wife the ring that Nkateko bought, or what was that holiday? I think you went to Dubai. I'm going to take my wife to Dubai, not knowing that you guys have been saving for 3, 4, 5 years, or that somebody's great-grandfather passed on and you are one of the inheritors of that money. So now, because of strife and competition, because of our nature, because of our God-given emotion, that person goes like, I'm also going to do the same. They knock themselves with debt. They ask them at the bank, can you afford this? They say yes. The person earns 55,000. They say I earn 75. The person's expenses is 85,000. They say the expenses are 25,000, and then they grant them the loan. There, you're not gonna sleep, my friend, and you're going to be anxious. By the time the end of the month comes and things are happening, that is when then the mental illness comes in. You are anxious, you are avoiding people, you are depressed, you are now going to suicidality. So this is in a simplified form. It's not as simple as I'm saying it, but obviously in the interest of time, this is how I can congest what is self-induced and what is external factors of the types of mental health problems. So when we look into the details in terms of what causes mental health issues, genetics, they do play a role. You know, it is within the lineage, and in the Christian community, in the Christian faith, we can be understanding it as generational curses. Chemical imbalances, and that is why sometimes we do prescribe medication so that they can balance the serotonin. Serotonin is a feel-good hormone against your, you know, to release the endorphins, as I said, and the serotonin against the toxins in your body, or the feel-bad hormones such as cortisol, for example, the stress hormones. So the chemical imbalances also, they can make a person to develop mental health problems. Social and environmental factors, we all come from different kinds of backgrounds. I often see people with post-traumatic stress disorder from things that happen in home, for example. I've got a client that I have, you know, that is in a hospital, and they are dealing with things that happened back then. This was in the, I think it was in the early 90s, but they're dealing with it now. Those are environmental factors, and they are not self-induced. So far what I've spoken about, the genetics and the social and environmental, they might not be so, self-induced, but then chemical imbalances can be, and also can be external, and it can also be self-induced. Relationship issues, we know how problematic things can be in relationships, be it mother-daughter, be it siblings, be it relatives, be it spousal. We have seen how the COVID-19 crisis have made people in all around the world, but now studies that have emerged so far, it's the divorce rate that have gone up because of the crisis. But then I maintain that because those relationships were already shaky, they were not on solid foundation, that is what also is causing the relationship issues. So as a result, then now it becomes the cyclical thing where if you are in a crisis and then the relationship does not go well, and then mental health, and then you don't have support, and then you are alone, and that's when depression kicks in and suicidality kicks in. Dysfunctional families, you know, which can be a place of major cause of mental health problems. You won't believe how many people I deal with. Whenever we go into what are the causes, it will mainly be from childhood, be it because of rejection, because of abuse, because of an illness of a loved one, because of grief. I'm not saying grief and illness is dysfunction, but I'm just saying it usually comes in from family of origin, or from you know, when a person is a bit younger. It's just that if they have not dealt with grief, if they have not dealt with the burden of illness of a person or their own illness, then it can show itself up. It can emerge as a mental illness later on because of the inability to cope with life and being overwhelmed by situations. Substance abuse, that can also, it will be one of the self-induced factors in terms of the causes of mental illness. So when I talk about dysfunction in the family, I think most people can make a mistake of thinking that intact families are not dysfunctional. And I want to make an example with myself. I thought I come from a very functional family until I did a school. It's lay Christian counseling school that I also teach in Atrijville and Harankua. Until I did that, and I realized how dysfunctional my family has been because of things that I'm going to mention in the later slide. But then I needed to deal with it in order to get ahead, you know. And so that is why I'm saying it does not matter what kind of a situation you're coming from. It might look like it's all rosy and cozy, just like in Elijah's case where he had just had victory, but then in a moment he felt like he just wanted to die. He wanted to commit suicide. So we look at mental health, you know, it often goes untreated. as I said, you know, people grow up, or even men, there's many things that are said to men to say, oh, monna kingu, olela ka kahare, but then you realize that later on, the man abuses the alcohol, the man abuses the children, they abuse the wife, they are, you know, it's a mess. Why? Because we tried to cover that with the societal norms of saying monna kingu or things like hey, the knife is going to cut you, especially a sharp knife. It's going to cut you very bad. So there is nothing as insane as seeing a problem and acting like there is nothing happening, and we just saying, let's soldier on, let's march on, life goes on. That is not a productive life. So it's because people often don't see the symptoms in themselves. That is why they don't deal. They don't know enough about the mental illness. They also feel guilty about the symptoms. I mean, if you are saying to your friends, because you're depressed, you are postponing events, you are not coming to functions, or you know, you don't feel like being with people, you are withdrawn and so on, you might feel guilty that you are not a good friend. So oftentimes people feel guilty about their symptoms, how they are feeling. People often want to avoid stigma because there's still a huge stigma, and that is why I started with the point of saying that we all have mental health issues. And the reason why I said that I am being deliberate in saying that, so that we can not stigmatize anybody. Because by the time you stigmatize somebody, then you must know that you are also sick. So we are all sick, it's just the different levels. And I want us to demystify and destigmatize mental illness today. I often say to people, you know, so coming to the last point, I will go on to the other one. People often fail to take all their medication or comply with therapeutic intervention. I often hear people who say, I don't want to be dependent on the sleeping tablets. I don't want to be dependent on the antidepressant. I say, but you've got diabetes and you still drink your pills every day. And you know, what's the issue there? What's the difference between somebody who's chronically ill with diabetes, with migraines, with a back problem, who goes to a physio every now and then, and they will say, but you can't see mental illness. Well, you can see mental illness. Mental illness is evident in you making an error. Instead of paying 100,000, you pay 1,001,000 as a result of a mental illness, because you can't concentrate, you are forgetful, you are not functioning very well. So the evidence is much more physical than if, for example, I've got a sprain, and can I see the sprain? I can't see the sprain. And how come we're saying with mental illness is because people cannot see it, therefore people will not believe it, especially in workplaces or even in the church environment, that oftentimes where we say, I believe God for healing. Yes, I do believe that God is a healer, but we often say, I believe God is a God for healing, therefore I will just throw away this medication. If you can throw away your diabetes medication, if you can throw away your chronic migraine medication, if you can throw away your whatever chronic medication that you're drinking, I will say gladly also throw any medication that you're being given by a psychiatrist. So views, people often view mental illness as a weakness or a failure. It is not. It is human nature. Things happen. Life happens to all of us. And also, mental illness goes on untreated because people often do not have support. They don't have a place where they can go to and be understood and feel like they can be able to speak. And therefore, that is why it goes untreated. So, then, they just die by themselves. We link this because we're talking here today in keeping sane in the midst of chaos, where we look at the crisis and the mental illness. I pointed out, I think it was last week in the Facebook Live, on these 3 articles that I came across, which I think it's very much worth taking a look at, and you can just take a screenshot and look them up in details at your own time. But all of these articles are highlighting the severity of mental illness as a pandemic and as a next level of this crisis of the COVID-19. So the World Economic Forum, it's saying, this is the second bulletin, it's saying lockdown is the world's biggest psychological experiment and we will pay the price. And then the third one, it's from a Canadian Center for Disease. It's saying mental illness will be next wave of COVID-19 pandemic. And the first one, it's local, from South African Anxiety and Depression Group. This was an online survey that have found out that in this time, suicidality has gone up by 15%. This is the people who have reported that have taken the survey. Dysfunction in the families have gone up. Substance abuse, even though it's, you know, alcohol is not accessible, you'll be surprised where people are getting alcohol in these days. You'll be surprised the corners that the people that are going for alcohol to be able to cope. And then a lot of people in this crisis, their mental illness is caused by finances. That is the number one. And I think the leaders on Monday and Tuesday and on Tuesday and Wednesday, they have really outlined this and went in more detail. So I'm not gonna go very much into details in terms of how can we effect or counter that effect of the finance being the most, the heaviest burden of this crisis, and we see it a lot. I think the first week it was still the honeymoon week, where people were still happy that they are home, that they get to spend time with their families, that they get to do the projects that they have always wanted to do for a long time, you know, that they get to binge on series and so on. And then came the second week, especially day 14. Day 14, you know, almost everybody was running amok to say they are now headed, they're having, cabin fever and so on. So these are the ramifications of being in the crisis. And then I want to zone into the strategies. What are the strategies to help us to mitigate? Because I think somewhat, as you are thinking about this, I'm painting a very gloomy picture of saying mental illness is here with us. Definitely, it's a reality, it's here with us, be it that there's a crisis or not. But obviously, when there's a crisis, we see it much more than when there's not a crisis. So what I'm saying is now we look at what can we do about the space in which we are in, to be able to then be functional, to be able to be effective. Number one, this is one of the points that I love the most. And you remember earlier on, I told you how I thought I grew up from a perfect family because I still have my 2 parents alive, and we are a very close-knit family. We always together, like we are together. Right now, as I said, I was happy to see my younger sister here because, you know, we are each other's support structure and so on. But I realized that the dysfunction in my family came from lack of boundaries. And lack of boundaries was not growing up post-strating, not because my parents were drunkard or that they neglected us or that they did not love us. In their heart of hearts, they did everything to give us a good life. They did everything to cushion us from the big bad roof that is called the world. I remember I was even, my husband was commenting about a song that I was listening to, and he was like, we're not even allowed to listen to secular music. That's how sheltered we were. So what I'm saying is, it's not because we did not have love. I still have love even up to today from my own parents and so on, but the lack of boundaries were brought on by the fact that my parents were so self-sacrificial that they, in their not caring for themselves, they could not pour out to their own children to have boundaries. And unfortunately, those are the things that I inherited. As much as I inherited loving people, being kind to people, embracing the world, and loving the world as it is, I also inherited lack of boundaries, which I had to work on so hard for the past 12, 13 years that I've been working on having boundaries. I have improved, obviously, but it was very much hard work. And how do boundaries help us in a midst of crisis or helping us with mental illnesses? Lack of boundaries contributes to our mental illness, because when we are overstretched, we become overwhelmed. And part of being overwhelmed, if you don't have the coping skills, it can set you back in a place where you are anxious, you don't know how to navigate life, you don't know, you can't say no to things, you say yes to everything because you want to please, because you want to be accepted, because you want to be affirmed. So lack of boundaries, actually, they contribute greatly to how we even feel bad about ourselves. I will give you an example just about today. I had a client last week and I wanted to rebook this client. And when I checked the diary, because it was last week Tuesday, and when I checked the diary, I said, oh, you know, I do it, it's a weekly session with this client. And the slot that was available was the preparation to just make sure everything works best. And I said, no, I'm not going to give you the slot. I'm going to give you tomorrow, which is Wednesday. So this was last week. And guess what? As I was in the session earlier on, the client comes, knocks, and I say, well, we don't have an appointment today. She says, I thought we did because you said Tuesday. And then I show her the diary, and obviously she believes. But if I was somebody with lack of boundaries, I was going to take that, sorry, I put my scarf. I did not cough at anybody, no. Yeah. But if I lacked boundaries, I was going to say, oh, you drove all the way, you are prepared, you put on makeup, you bathed. This 2-hour, 3-hour slot that I had reserved for me to just make sure that I'm sane, let me give it to you for your sanity. But guess what? I showed her and I said, see you tomorrow. Somebody else might say, you know, that is cruel, child of God. You know, Pastor, I see you have your eyebrows raised right there. Somebody might say that is cruel. It is not cruel. Actually, do you know what is cruel? So again, we're still talking about boundaries, and I saw a question popping up and saying, how do we establish boundaries? And we can read it in more details when Tato reads it for us. What will have been cruel will be being invited by Mmuso Development Hub to do this presentation, to be honored in this platform, and me preparing and then taking that time of emotional preparation, of channeling myself to be able to be given to you and then give it to him. So let's take that scenario. So let's say I give it to her. I hope she's not in this platform. Well, even if she's not, she knows I teach on boundaries, and we also using that as a therapeutic method as well, to have boundaries, because it helps in therapy, in intervening. So let's say I gave her that time, sat with her. The time was 3 to 5 that I had reserved. Sat with her from 3 to 4. By the way, I am being cruel because I will have been doing disservice to her because I'm not fully there. I am not present there. I am where I wanted to be in my mind. So I will be cruel in that she is paying me for half service or for no service, because my mind will be wandering and I'll be anxious and nervous and going on and so on and so on. And another cruelty will be me coming in with sweat, unprepared, unorganized, interruptive, coming in and not honoring this platform that I've been given. So now tell me if me having said, see you tomorrow is cruel or not. Which part is cruel? Which part is kind? So that is how boundaries work. I can give many examples. I've got tons and tons and tons of examples. Time does not allow us. I come into appraisal. And on that note, please take a note of this book that you can read. It's by Dr. John Townsend and Henry Cloud. It's called Boundaries. It just has a pencil drawn in the middle of it, paperback. It's, there's a paperback, and then there's a newer version. I think it's a 2018 edition, which has got boundaries and social media, and it's also got a workbook. So you can choose either one. It's just that the 2018 one, they have added the boundaries and social media, and also the workbook. So that is the book that I would like for you to get if you are struggling with boundaries, because I have just given a snapshot. It's a whole 6 to 8 hours thing that I do with boundaries alone. And then I come to appraisal. In this time of crisis, how can we cope better and with our mental illness? Because now I hope we are all acknowledging that we are mentally ill, but we are saying, how can we cope better? These are the strategies. In this time of crisis, your appraisal of the situation is going to matter very much. And I think the other leaders have also spoken about that, but I like to make this analogy and say, on any cloudy day, look at it on any day. Today was a cloudy day, and I bet every one of us is saying that the sun was not shining, and we are all wrong. The sun was shining mighty bright. If we were to all be taken on an aeroplane, on a jet or a parachute or anything like that, and be taken above the clouds, that is when we will see that the sun is shining. But because of our vantage point, because of our viewpoint, we see the sun not shining. But should we be given other set of eyes in a way of being elevated above the clouds, we will then see that the sun is shining. And in a place of crisis, in a place of chaos, how we deal with mental illness is about how we appraise the situation. And by the way, I'm not saying this from an arrogant place, but I prayed to God and said, God, show me strategies on how to really survive out of this crisis. And the strategy that I'm talking about, it was money-making strategies. I'm in business. I'm not joking anymore. I used to be I believe in BA, born again, and we are all going to heaven and hallelujah. I'm not about that life anymore. I've left it about 2 or 3 years ago because I know the work of God needs a lot of money. And there's been lots of places as a missionary. There have been lots of places and things that I've wanted to do, but because there was no money, I was left frustrated that we can't do that. We can't just be in a jet right now and go to Cambodia and take relief and not have to wait for a commercial plane and just charter ourselves to the remotest part of the world that are unreachable. To we were talking now about it's a place next to Fiji, Tuvalu, I think. Yes, it's Tuvalu, it's an island. So anyway, and then I got obviously the revelation that the rent is going to suffer. But then I did not act on the rent suffering. And right now I am regretting that I did not act on the rent suffering. So I'm saying, even in the midst of chaos, in the midst of crisis, I could have made lots of money. Traders know what I'm talking about. Anyway, and then the other thing was when the lockdown was announced, I came to the practice, and one of the people here speaks about, the husband's work in a hardware. And I said to my husband, I want to order boxes of masks. And then because we were told that they were already finished, I think about in January in this hardware, I did not pursue that. But I'm thinking, if I had ordered the mask, right now I could be selling them 3, 4, 5 times the price. And those are the ideas that came through. So let's look now. There are people who are thriving even in chaos. So meaning that chaos is how we appraise it. If chaos becomes under the cloud, it's cloudy, there's no sunshine, it's going to be like that. If the chaos is, it's cloudy here, but let me get on a parachute, let me get on an aeroplane and get a different vintage point so that I can see and bask under the sun. There are people right now that are making killings out of masks, that are making killings out of sanitizers, that are making killings out of sewing masks, because what? They have seen the sunshine. They did not see the clouds. And then lastly, which this is one that I love speaking about, it's my favorite, support system. And I know it's not everybody that have got a fantastic support system such as mine, but I want to say that you can surround yourself and choose to surround yourself, because I think sometimes we put ourselves in harm's way, be it that we realize that we are putting ourselves in harm's way, or be it that we are ignorant. Sometimes we put ourselves in harm's way because we want to be approved by those people. You know, we keep on going back into bad relationships, into bad friendships, into bad association. A business partner steps you in the back and you still go back. That is lack of boundaries, you know. So in boundaries, we don't say that forgiveness is not possible. We say forgiveness is possible, but forgiveness does not equal reconciliation, because you can't go back to the same stove that burned you. So you are not a pot. You are a human being with a flesh. A pot can go back to the stove so that the meat can evolve. But then you, with the human flesh, you cannot go back to the stove that has bent you. So what I want to emphasize on that is how important a social support is. And this might even call for us to sometimes reevaluate and redefine relationships. I think just because you went with people to high school, you think automatically these people are my friends. Or just because you grew up in the same street, you think automatically these people are my friends. Or you go to the same church, or you were born in that family, automatically you need to be friends with those people even though they keep on hurting you. It's not the case. I usually, when I challenge people to redefine their relationships, especially struggling with family relationships, will be where somebody thinks their mother is not a mother to them. And I say, okay, what is the definition of mother? And then they will list to me, you know, nurturing, understanding, listening, forgiving, and all of that. And I say, well, is your mother all that? And they'll be like, no, they are not mother. So I say, why do you call them mother? Just because they gave birth to you, I know it sounds cruel, but just because they gave birth to you, it does not mean that they are mother. They are somebody who gave birth to you, but then in terms of their attributes, they are not mothering. You might find that there is a mother in the church, a mother in the workplace, a mother down the road or somewhere who is mothering you, so the emotional mothering, or who is friendshiping you than somebody who you're dragging through because of some loyalty. So that is definitely, you know, how we then rally support, or a support system around ourselves. We look for people who don't judge us, who are able to positively acknowledge what we're going through, and what, you know, in terms of containing us and our crisis. And I want to end off with a quote from Dr. Anita Phillips. She says, prayer is a weapon, therapy is a strategy. And I've been speaking about a couple of strategies right now, and I want to say that therapy too is also a strategy that we can use to be able to navigate and deal with our mental illnesses. There's nothing wrong with coming to therapy as a child of God. Yes, prayer is needed. You need to be prayerful as a leader, but also therapy can be a strategy to help you to navigate and to cope better with a mental illness, or to cope better in terms of where to go and how to move forward in life and be able to be contained in your mental illness. As we said, we are all mentally ill, but how do we become contained in our respective mental illness? And this is where I end the presentation.
Wow, wow, sure. Thank you so much, Nkateko. Wow, this was, phew,